It is patch notes review time, and today we're going to do these a little bit quicker than usual because it's mid-season and there's a lot to go through. So mid-season update notes, and we're going to quickly look at the skins. We're not going to go through all the voice packs. You have the Sweetie Pie Sol, Power Para, Fun Apocalypse, Chibalanke, Sweet Justice, Nemesis, Rematch Hera, Great Tengu Carnunos, Snowstrix Ra, really cool. Infantry Sylvanas, also very cool. Molten Shogun, Erlang Shen, finally it's good for Erlang Shen. Sappy Chibi Zeus, and Spirit Sun Ho Yi. A lot going on, and we have a quick list here. First, we have the Sweet Victory Battle Pass, and we have Battle for Olympus with some of the skins. Then the Great Tengu chest for the Carnunos, Battle Worn chest, and Battle for Olympus number 8. There are a lot of AI bots, blah 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 blah. We are gonna not go into detail here. Various bug fixes. We're also not gonna look into them in detail. We can quickly look at the guards and see if there's anything important. Combat dodge fixed an issue where the second fire of this ability was going on cooldown earlier than intended with Achilles. That is definitely an interesting one. Willish got a hot fix previous audio for gameplay clarity. Okay. Some texture fixes here, model fixes here, and sound amounts for Carnunos has been reduced. No more grunting all the time. A passive meter from Kukulin calculating plus 15% mana to health conversion rather than 20. Okay, so you get a bit more health. Hera gets some audio fixes. Horus gets some edge cases for protector search where it didn't work properly, apparently running out of time. So you can dash further across the map and to the skies. Update the description that allies will also receive a shield. Cool. And some more audio fixes here, some more... Oh, Janos could be perma-silenced. Okay, that's fixed too. And another portal out of the Joust map. Yes, that's all very straightforward fixes. The Merlin damage, like the dot issue is fixed now, where you could have the dot for longer than you should have. And Nox gets another specific fix, and we have some T-posing here, and I think... Oh yeah, okay, this is nice. Terror of the Death, Crush Projectile, FX missing an emitter on low settings. Yes, because it was basically almost invisible. And Set actually got no changes this patch. That's interesting. But he got a fix. And that's the same with the dot fix. Okay. Project Olympus. Added a HUD minimap indicator to show which team owns the Pyromancer. I thought that was already last patch, but oh well. Then Battle Pass now has a prestige track with the extra reward. That's the second hero skin. It's basically just a recolor for those of you who want to grind all the way. And then have more input. No, a shortcut input to custom message text in console lobby chat. So you can call some more stuff, I guess. And PC UI can now click on the chat box to type. Okay. Let's not get preview text, blah, blah. All this small details, it seems. Then special messages. Yes, cool. Nothing really that's that important for us. But here, that's where the important part starts. Game modes rather. Ranked split 4 begins. Soft reset as usual, but this time the conquest queue time is reduced down to 7 minutes from 9 minutes. So that should go a little bit quicker, and at the same time, the entire queue, or like the entire pick lobby is also shortened down. You now have 10 bands instead of 8. And in Conquest, this is 2 new bands, Joust 2 new bands, and Duel 2 new bands. And this is also going to be used in competitive at the same time. But the changes that are happening along with that is decreased pick time from 30 seconds to 20 seconds, band time from 30 seconds to 15 seconds, and bank time increased from 30 to 40 seconds. So things should be going a lot quicker now. A new item T, and that's Athurian, and that's already a big one. With various items, we are going to focus on the T3 here because T2 are also interesting to a degree. Like the cooldown reduction, power cooldown reduction, magical power, physical power, and cooldown reduction and protection. But what's really relevant here are the Tier 3 items. First one being Fail Not, which is an hunter-only item. So not for assassins, not for warriors. 2,800 gold, 20 cooldown reduction, 20% cooldown reduction, 50 physical power, 25% critical strike chance. That's already a pretty massive combination because you have that power and 25% critical strike chance. I think that's more power than Deathbringer and Malice have right now, if I recall correctly. I think they are on 40 now. I'd have to check. But you, on top of that, get the 20% cooldown reduction, and that's not all. You also, after you finish and... Let me start that sentence again. After you finish casting your ultimate ability, your next ability cast within 5 seconds that damages an enemy god marks them, increasing the chance they will be critically struck by 15% for 10 seconds. Can only trigger once every 45 seconds. Only after your ult, but for 10 seconds. And this is not only by you, by everyone. So you doom a target with this. Apparently this can even work with the EMEA, so you can actually crit with an amplified EMEA basic with this, which is absolutely insane. Brutal Maglini is going to have fun with that one. I think this item is going to be crazy. I think this is going to push ability hunters into crit builds. I don't know how it's going to work with Oler, actually, now that I think of it, because, well, how is it going to work with Oler? I really hope it doesn't mean that you can get it all the time. But again, it has a 45-second cooldown anyway, so I guess it'll be okay in that regard. It would still be very rough. And yeah, I think this is gonna push these guards into new builds and also push ability hunters to the top, because especially in combination with Malice, you have so much cooldown reduction, crit chance, extra damage from that. It's not gonna be fun. And then we have Arendite, which is for assassins and warriors. And this one is strange. 10% cooldown reduction, so less than the rest. 55 physical power. That in combination is not super loaded with stats. Like, you probably get more damage out of, say, Jotun's Wrath, and you have more cooldown reduction. But the passive, after casting your ultimate ability, reveal all enemies within 120 feet of you. While moving towards revealed targets, you gain 30% increased movement speed. When a revealed enemy takes damage from you for the first time, they take an additional 40 plus 30% of your physical power. Enemies are revealed for 8 seconds. Can trigger once every 45 seconds. Now, I think, technically speaking, this is incredibly strong and incredibly interesting, especially on a competitive level. Like, this reveal mechanic is something that can be very, very useful. On a more casual level, most people don't even buy wards. They don't value vision. And I'm not sure if they're going to value this. Maybe they will value it for the movement speed, but the item itself, again, doesn't have insane stats. And it only comes through the passive that has so much benefit. And you have to have an assassin that goes through multiple targets, hits multiple targets for this to really bring you much benefit. And most assassins are more single target focused. And then you also have to have an assassin that makes decent use of cooldown reduction in the first place, and maybe of movement speed as well. So this selection is limited. It's maybe like a Pele item, kind of, around that. Just because she uses her ult to engage as well, and then, yeah, you get extra damage. But it's a lot of assassins I don't really quite see the application on. Maybe more so for some warriors, but then you have to go into a full power item on a warrior. And also, it works a lot with scaling, so you have to go into full power in general. So yeah, I don't know. Strange one. Again, more for competitive, maybe. Then we have Staff of Merlin, which is for mages and guardians. 2,800 gold, also just 10% cooldown reduction here. But 100 magical power. And a passive, after casting your ultimate ability, your next ability, or non-ultimate ability cast within 10 seconds, will have no cooldown, but it will only hit for 70% of its normal damage and heal for 70% of its normal healing. Can trigger once every 45 seconds. I think this is probably the scariest one here, because certain guards just have insane potential with double casting abilities. We'll have to find out which abilities get kind of replaced here, but just imagine, like, for example, I don't know what happens if you drop a double Nox ult and then root someone between the two Nox ults, or if one of them gets removed, or double Whirlpool. I think that might remove the other one as well. I think a lot of these put them on the ground abilities get removed, but maybe you just need like a Ra snipe and then drop the one twice on an enemy and they're dead, you know. It depends on the situation, how exactly the ability interacts, and that's something that's worth testing. But when we tested that, I feel like this is going to be very, very strong. And then we have a Pride Win, which is for all classes, but it's primarily a tank item. 2,400 gold, 20% cooldown reduction, 45 physical and magical protection. After casting your ultimate ability, you gain a large shield equal to your protections for 5 seconds. That, keep in mind, in most situations, is not even that much. It's like a 200, 300 shield, depending on how far in the build you are. When this shield breaks, either by timing out or being depleted, it explodes and deals magical damage equal to 50% of the shield's health and slowing targets for 25% for 3 seconds. And only trigger once every 45 seconds. So I think the interesting part here is the slow, because the damage really isn't that much, as far as I understand it at least. And I don't know if the slow is going to be that necessary after an ultimate for many gods. For certain gods, maybe it makes more sense, and for others, it really depends on how much of a setup your ultimate itself already is. Like, say, Nike could, I guess, use it to extend the slow, but I'm not sure. Maybe it also depends on the range of the explosion a little bit. And then we have another new item, Contagion. 2050 gold, 60 physical protection, 100 health, 250 mana, 15 MP5, aura. Enemy gods within 55 units have their healing reduced by 25%. This does not stack with Pestilence. So, physical version of Pestilence, very, very nice. Very much useful for solo lane, but sometimes for support as well. Just overall gives you this counter potential that wasn't there before, and I think that's great. And just all around fantastic. Good job. Demonic Grip. Increased cost from 2,150 to 2,300 as a result of certain mage ADCs overperforming. I think this is actually a good decision, especially since those that are not overperforming, or that, well, yeah, kind of like Sol and maybe Oleron to some degree, don't necessarily need Demonic Grip. Oleron kind of, I would say, needs in most situations, especially Sol can kind of build around it if you want to, whereas the other two, and I think, well, I guess you can build around on Kronos as well, but you'd want to have it at the end of the day, and yeah, I think that nerf is also not that hard. Hastened Ring gets hit a little bit harder. Price increase from 2,300 to 2,700 gold. So very late game item now, and in return the magical powers increased from 50 to 70. I think this will still make it harder to build this item and maybe make certain gods a little less viable in that regard and push some others up. Doom Up gets the magical power per stack reduced from 6 to 4, but gets its base magical power increased from 135 to 145 to be more even with other expensive high power items. Totally fair, good buff. Yeah, nothing more to say. Swift Isolation, passive changed from 1 second to 2 seconds. So more cooldown reduction. I think this is very nice, very interesting for those situations where it makes sense. And yeah, I like it. I think that's a fair change. I think that doesn't break the item, kind of, you know, in line with Malice, but for mages, I think that's cool. Ethereal Staff decreased the cost from 2,600 to 2,500, but increased max health stolen from 5% to 6% as well. So a little bit of a buff in 2 ways here. And I think it might be even more interesting for certain solo lane guardians now, for example. I'm not sure if it's actually going to become more of a prominent mage item. I think the health steal is just too weird for most. Jade Emperor's Crown reduced cost from 2,150 to 2,100, okay? And increased health from 100 to 150. Yeah, makes it a little better again. I have to run the numbers in detail to see how it stacks up against Sovereignty now, because that's always a big question. Hasten Katana increased cost from 2,300 to 2,300 to 2,500. Heavy hit for AA gods. Apparently, Bakasura, Chaldea are doing too well. Those are the 2 gods this item always hinges on, and yeah, they've been high on the stats, so it's getting nerfed, I guess. Sure. Talaria boots. I will discuss this more in more detail soon anyways, because I wanted to compare Hastened and Atalantis anyway, so we'll look at that in all detail. Talaria boots. Worst change of this patch. I'm just going to read this one off. Talaria's has become a core item for warriors and assassins, bringing a large boost in mobility that is valuable in conquest. Each boot type should bring trade-offs, but Talaria's had little downside. This change will cause the wearer to sacrifice some physical power, which is a fair choice considering how potent movement speed can be. Decreased physical power from 20 to 15. You do realize that you already sacrificed half your physical power from the first item that you built when you built Talaria boots beforehand. Like, the reason why Talaria is not being built, is not because junglers want to build Talaria, because they're like, oh yeah, Talaria is so OP. they're building it because speed buff got nerfed. And the mobility just comes online later with how it's like shifted around and with the whole SNES blessing and everything. That's why Talaria Boots is being picked, not because players actually want to pick it. If speed buff was more useful in terms of stats, then Warrior Tabi would still be used and Talaria Boots wouldn't even be used. So this change is nonsensical. I don't know who thinks that after nerfing junglers for half a year, we need to nerf junglers more. And it's super frustrating to me. I've ranted about it before. I don't need to rant more, but why? Just there's no logic anymore. There's not even justification. Like, not even any explanation here. Like why they think that junglers need more nerfs. Yeah. Ninja Tabi increased attack speed from 20% to 25%. So primarily a buff focused on hunters here, for which Ninja Tabi was already better most of the time. So that's getting even more buffed, I guess. And ironically, this also buffs the AA assassins, which are supposed to get nerfed, I guess. And the same is true for Kensai's, which has an attack speed increased from 15 to 20% as well. But at the same time, I'm not sure if AA hunters are what we're going to see. Again, with the new crit item, there could be some very interesting other applications. But maybe it remains too niche, and this is just more reliable, solid DPS. Wind Demon cost decreased from 2,600 to 2,500. Well, yeah, okay. Fair enough. I don't think it's going to be core. I think we have more interesting crit items right now. Kaivel decreased cost from 2,600 to 2,450. May make this item a little bit more interesting because it was, well, somewhat inaccessible beforehand. Now it's a bit of more of a reason to build it. Though I still can't quite think of a standard build where I'd want to run it personally. Runic Shield increased health from 150 to 200. Okay, you know, that's like, I'm fine with that. It's always been a decent item in my opinion, but sometimes like it felt a little bit underwhelming compared to some other magical defense items. So I like this buff. I think it's very cool. And then we have one. Don't know, Thieves is a high risk option for supports for a role that needs blah 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 blah. I don't understand this. I think Thieves, sure, it's not ultra hyper popular maybe everywhere, but it's still a very solid item, and it's been popular for the majority of the season. And now it's getting multiple buffs. Decrease cost from 2,450, no, from 2,400 to 2,350, and decreased base health from 275 to 300. Now these are not massive buffs. I'm just a bit surprised that this change is happening. But okay, fair enough. Bulwark of Hope. Yeah, I'll leave it used. Reduced cost from 2,400 to 2,300 and increased health from 200 to 250. Ironically, it's popular in other game modes outside of Conquest, but yeah, it's not a very team-oriented item. It doesn't bring the utility that other defense items bring, like Pestilence, for example, something you usually choose over this. But I can see more of an application for it now with these changes. Talisman of Energy, passive duration increased from 8 to 10 seconds. You're usually not going to notice that, but it's nice for those who use it, like me. So I enjoy that change. Relic Dagger increased relic cooldown reduction from 30 to 40 seconds. Pretty crazy to me. You can really use your relics often that way. Surprising, but yeah, I didn't expect that, but cool. I don't mind that change. Excuse me, I'm a little tired because it's 3:30 in the morning right now. Bees, or AMC, decreased base damage from 9 to 5 per tick. That is quite a lot. And Swarm decreased base damage from 60 to 280 to 60 to 260. Decreased physical power scaling from 80 to 70%. He has been quite oppressive in quite a few matchups and in quite a few situations. So that's absolutely understandable. Hit him early, hit him hard. I think this is actually going to be very noticeable in the Beast aspect here. Anhur has not been doing so hot apparently and is getting a lot of buffs. 15 cents increased damage buff from 4 to 20% to 8 to 20%, so more in early levels. Increased range from 65 to 70. Very interesting. I think that might make the Impale combo a bit easier to hit for some. Impale reduce pre-fire from 0.2 to 0.17 to better match his animation. Also gonna feel better that way, which is very nice. And so it's like completely aligned now in animation apparently. And Desert Fury added target FX while channeling this ability, so you know where you're aiming better. Bunch of changes for Anhur that make him very interesting to play in my opinion. I really want to try that out, and I just want to see if Anhur feels any better, because I'm somebody who likes Anhur's concept but always had an issue with the feeling of this character, and maybe this takes care of that. Apollo Audacity. Each damaging ability now adds 2 stacks of Audacity for each enemy hit. Damaging ability. So the 1, 3, and the ultimate. And these stacks, it seems, I mean, it says 2 stacks of Audacity for each enemy got hit, but with the ultimate, it looked like it actually adds stacks for each hit as well, and not just like each hit of the ability, and not just once per ability. Maybe I'll have to look at that again, but either way, I think this change is actually fair. I think it's okay for Apollo to get some buffs, and he also gets another change. The moves increase duration of the buff and debuff from 2 to 3 seconds. So he's gonna overall, I think primarily with the Audacity change, have a bit more impact, because he's gonna have his passive in more situations. But I think it's not gonna feel overwhelming. He's still an AA guard, and he's gonna have the passive in most fights sooner or later. It just might just be that he has got it a little bit more often now. And as long as they don't buff the 2, I'm okay with that. Ares, Searing Flash. This ability now deals magical damage equal to 5% of max health per tick to non-boss minions only at all ranks. It still deals 1, 1, 2, 2, 3% to guards. So a lot more clear for Ares to jungle camps and minions on his own, or with his hunter, whoever is with Searing Flesh. Very interesting, very cool. I like it. Chaac also gets multiple buffs. Torrent decreased cooldown from 15 seconds to 13 seconds. Storm Call, the knockback from this ability now knocks enemy players straight up. This is very interesting, because I cannot tell how much of an impact this will have without actually playing it. I think it might be very strong. It might also not be that strong. I can't really say. I would think it's more towards the stronger side, but the question is, how much does it do for Chaac overall? Is it really going to change Chaac as a character? And that's what we want to know with any Chaac change, because you always have these teammates that pick Chaac because he's safe and early, and then late game nothing happens anymore. And I really wonder how much Stormcall changes will do about that. And like, if it, for example, like even for like a Hydra's Chaac or something, if the knockup allows him to then like walk up to the enemy during the animation of the knockup and just hit them again or something. Because right now you're just hitting them away. Gonna be interesting. Like Shen, along with his change, with his skin, gets a change. Spot weakness decreased. Base damage from 25 to 85 to 15 to 75. Because apparently he was doing a bit too well and didn't really have, like, was more able than others to go into tank while still dealing a lot of damage. So yeah, adjustment. And then we have Fafnir. Curse strength, decreased attack speed buff. Wait, curse strength? No, this is confusing. I'm pretty sure this is curse. Increased attack speed buff from 15 to 35% to 10 to 30%. And decreased bonus damage from 5 to 25% to 4 to 20%. So damage decreased and attack speed decreased, but this is curse. And there was another change in the patch notes show, which was that the width of his hammer was increased by 1 unit, which makes that easier to hit. So I'm not sure why that's not here. But yeah, maybe it's just a bit buggy still. This is all regarding curse. Freya gets a nerf to Aurora Blade, with the base damage being decreased from 16 to 60 to 1 to 40, meaning that your ranged basic will hardly do any bonus damage on the first rank. You have to level it to get bonus damage out of it. And then increase the range scaling from 10% to 15%, meaning in late game you will get some of that damage back, but you still lose 20 base damage on max rank, and that's going to make her early game significantly weaker and her early clear significantly weaker. So yeah, that's where it's at. And I think that's kind of fair, even though Freya is not consistently doing super well across all levels up. And then we have the Goddess of Demonetization, who has got a lot of changes. This is going to be interesting, because we'll really see how this one turns out. Funeral Rites increased range from 30 to 40 units. Spirit Ball, you can now refire this ability at any point after firing it. So under crowd control, while dead, and the post-fire is removed, so you can also fire it again right after. So if someone is right in your face, you can pop it immediately and you get that stun right on them. Dispel Magic no longer provides a boost of magical protection, instead provides a shield to assist nearby allies. This shield is applied within 40 units of her or the dispelled target, like both. And the shield health is 90 to 250 plus 40% increased potency per additional target hit. I guess most of the time you just hit one target though. This caps at 80% potency if you hit 3 guards, which you won't do most of the time. The duration remains unchanged. This is interesting because a shield is a bit more immediate responsive action basically, and the fact that it has an unchanged duration means like if someone gets hit by something at the end of it and they would benefit less from the protections because they just get hit by a little bit, they will now, instead of that, take no damage at all due to the shield. So the shield can be more beneficial and also works against 2 damage. So yeah, this is gonna feel stronger, at least for sure. And you're gonna visually see the shield as well. And then Circle of Protection, increase the base healing from 80 to 160 to 110 to 190. And the mitigations obtained from 15% to 20% to 25% at all ranks. I thought it had something about base damage as well, but I'm not sure anymore. So a whole bunch of changes. She's going to be a lot stronger, and that's going to be very, very interesting. Definitely one of the bigger changes in this patch. We have Merlin, Eclipse, decreased magical power scaling, the initial hit from 60% to 55%, decreased magical power scaling on the tick damage from 10% to 8%. Good nerfs here, even though I could imagine some more downscaling on Eclipse over time, for example. Blizzard increased the time delay to deploy his ability from 0.5 seconds to 0.7 seconds. Apparently it was the quickest deployable ability before somehow, and now it's not. Now it's even with Anubis Grasping Hand, I think. And Elemental Mastery increased cooldown from 28 to 20 to 32 to 20 seconds, meaning you have to level it more to get it more often. Good changes. I think he needed a bunch of nerfs, and he got a bunch of nerfs, and now we'll see how he feels afterwards. Nemesis. I don't know where this one came from. Retribution, increased damage reflect from 30 to 50% of damage received to 50% at all ranks. Also, increased healing from 80 to 100% of damage received to 100% at all ranks. So she literally has the full reflect and the full healing at all times now, and what you do with leveling is increase the value of the shield. Yeah, you know. Okay, sure. I'll take it. I like Nemesis, but I'm surprised. Naja. Universe Ring Toss increased damage reduction of subsequent hits on the same target from 25% to 35%. So less damage. It's increased damage reduction. And decreased slow from 25% to 15%. Effect can now stack up to 2 times. So if you get a bounce, then you can get the full slow, but with a single throw, you cannot get it anymore. I can see where the nerfs here came from. Apparently his recent fixes have improved the feel a lot and performance a lot, so there's some nerfs in return. Nike, definitely the most interesting changes of this patch. So Nike was mostly successful because of her passive, because teams won the game, not she won the game, but the teams won the game with her passive, and they're shifting everything. And that means reworking the 2 as well, and I'm very happy about all this. So to victory, bonus power decreased from 4 to 8% to 1 to 3%. Bonus movement speed decreased from 2 to 6% to 1 to 2%. Probably hardly worth even thinking about, though. The power maybe... Excuse me, the power maybe a little bit, but the movement speed... Rend, this ability now always fires 3 times. So as if you had Plan of Action active. Plan of Action is completely reworked. It actually has a new name as well. It doesn't say the name here though. This is a completely different ability. Nike conjures a protective barrier in front of her that blocks ranged basic attacks. So it absorbs them or blocks them or whatever you want to call it. They're just not going through at all, and anyone behind it wouldn't get hit either. While channeling the barrier, Nike's movement and rotation are limited. Means she turns slower and walks slower. Enemies who get near the barrier are damaged and knocked back. At any point, Nike can refire the ability to collapse the barrier and deal damage to enemies in a larger area in front of her. Nike channels for up to 6 seconds. He moves 50% slower while channeling. Refire damage, meaning you can... Wait, what? Single hit at the ability. You can basically let go of this ability to deal damage. Or at the end, it will deal the damage automatically. That's 65 to 285 plus 50% of your physical power. That alone is pretty crazy. And then you have pulse damage on shield, 10 to 30 plus 5% of your physical power per hit, plus a knockback effect. So this is when you push into an enemy with this ability, or an enemy runs into you. Keep in mind, you're very slow during this. So you might actually want to run up to an enemy first and then use the shield if the knockback is your goal. There's also a knockback that is just happening on the ground. So like, I don't think you can do like a village pull off that. It's also very quick. A cooldown 15 seconds at all ranks, mana cost 60 to 80. Now this ability is super interesting because it, in my opinion, is perfect as a backline peel. Even if you're not trying to absorb projectiles, which you can also be, you can push enemies off your allies. You can just stand right next to an ally with this, and you can just push anyone off that's coming near them by using this ability, which I think is really interesting. Really interesting mechanic, and we'll see how it works out. Nike literally got an additional ability compared with what you had before, because as you can see here, Valiant Leap also now always travels a faster speed. So the 1 and the 3 get the full amplification of the 2 from beforehand anyways. And what we're not getting is the HP 5 or the sustain in general. And then the ultimate, Sentinel of Zeus. This ability no longer goes on cooldown if Nike dies during the warm-up time. That, well, it says gain shield immediately. I'm not sure what that means, because then it would still go on cooldown, but I don't know. Well, increased shield health amount from 20 to 40% of max health to 30 to 50% of max health. So the middle ground between non-plan of action ultimate and plan of action ultimate. Otherwise, it would have been 20% extra. Note that the shield health does not increase from plan of action. So, plan of action, which now has a new name, no longer has an influence on that. Really cool. Nike can now use any individual ability separately without any issues. And she gets a new one that knocks enemies back, which is really cool, and stops projectiles. In a trade-off, you lose most of your passive and you lose the sustain that you had. And I want to play Nike and I want to see how this feels. Odin. Raven Shout decreased cooldown from 15 seconds to 15 down to 11 seconds. Apparently the same as his leap. So you're going to see a lot more Raven Shout Bird Bomb combos, which I think sounds pretty scary and might actually push Odin a lot. Run, Overflowing Divinity. I'm going to keep this one short. So this is super messy when you try to read through it. What happens is his damage values were glitched. The fall off was not working properly. The scaling damage was not falling off in damage with multiple hits. Now the base damage is increased, so the first hits will deal more damage from 30 to 70 to 35 to 95. And the scaling is also increased from 10 to 15%. But the decrease per shot is now 20% instead of 10%. So the first hits do more, everything else does less. And the minimum damage that a shot can do goes down from 20% to 10%. So if you lock down someone for the full duration of the entire blast, then, which never happens anyways, then they take less damage now. And this will cause shots to more quickly decay in damage, blah, 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 lowering the lowest damage they can deal. And the projectiles now start randomizing the hit location from the second projectile, increasing with the increased from the fifth hit, meaning it's not quite as reliable anymore, which sometimes can be in your benefit if like an enemy is running away and the projectile goes off a little bit in his direction, or it can work against you, a bit more randomness. So yeah, overall good changes, and we'll see how he feels after that. And I think it's going to make him stronger, especially if you play with a playstyle that I recently described, where you go for the basics first to stack up, and then drop the two as fast as you can, and then restack for the next time you do it. All in the all-round mechanics video. Ram Astral Barrage gets a shift in damage without reading the numbers here, because it doesn't really make it easier. basically what happens is the damage between the 3 shots is closer to each other now. So hitting the first shot is more rewarding, and hitting the last shot is less rewarding in comparison. But hitting all 3 shots is still basically the same damage as before, or roughly the same damage. So it's more a tweak that makes him feel a little bit better for newer players, I guess, or for people that are still trying to learn to hit the second, third shot-ish. Skadi. Calder, the Winter Wolf's now passive. If Calder has 0 HP, Skadi gains 10% increased physical power. Increased Calder's hit point generation from 7 seconds to 5 seconds. He comes back a little quicker if he dies, and if he's dead, then you actually get a little bit of a benefit. Also, Winter's Grasp rework. A snowstorm surrounds Skadi as she chooses a location for Calder to attack. Calder is too far, he will leap there, not dash, he will leap instead. It looks pretty cool. Upon reaching the location, a snowstorm also surrounds Calder. Initial hit or either snowstorm roots enemies in the area, and Calder is restored to full health. The storm persists for 4 seconds while dealing damage to enemies for every 0.5 seconds. Apparently, if an enemy is already being dashed on by Calder and Calder is already on them, then he will not leap again. So this is worth keeping in mind. But you can kind of do like a baiting combo with it, where you call Calder off a target and then ult onto them and having him jump on them again, just for the looks or for distraction or whatever. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Thor gets a bunch of changes. I would say primarily buffs. Mjolnir's attunement fixed an issue where players at max range would be hit by the initial but not by the return hit. So yeah, niche cases, but I think some of you may have noticed some of those before. I definitely did. Berserker Barrage rework. Thor spins his hammer around him, dealing damage to enemies in front of him up to 3 times, not the insane amount of spins he had before, and those behind him up to 2 times. The final swing deals extra damage. Thor is immune to knockup for the duration. The knockup immunity is significantly shortened that way because the spin is significantly shorter, but in return, the cooldown is also reduced from 11 seconds to 8 seconds. Mana cost is reduced from 65 to 85 to 55 to 75. The damage per hit changed from 20 to 100 plus 45% of your physical power to 30 to 110 plus 40% of your physical power. Bit surprised that they took the scaling down that much here, actually, now that I'm looking at it. But the final swing here has 45 damage to 125 damage plus 60% of your physical power. But that would still mean that after, if in the old swing you got like 4 hits off, then you would have done more damage, I think. Yes, which is possible. Whereas like getting all hits with Thor, Berserker Barrage can sometimes be kind of rough. I'm surprised it nerfed it that much, I gotta say. It seems like it's hitting harder than expected, but then again, also shorter cooldown, more time to use basic attacks due to the much shorter swing time. Just a quicker, heavier hitting combo, so will feel different, but might actually be in his favor. May make like heavy power focus, but a little less useful. And Envolved On, a new component. After Thor lands from his ultimate, his hammer, Mjolnir, is infused with lightning for 6 seconds. During this buff state, each of his basic attacks and abilities chain lightning to nearby enemy guards, damaging them with each hit. So it's basically Odysseus' bow, but it only hits guards. Initial target 20 to 60 plus 15% of your physical power per chain lightning. And then the chain target, it's 30 plus 7.5% of your physical power per chain lightning. It looked like it fell off after the first hit anyways, but it looked like they all kind of changed once, but I'm not sure. Either case, this means a lot of extra damage because it's across 6 seconds. So after the ultimate, which is normally when you attack with Thor in most situations, you will deal a lot of the AoE damage in a team fight. People want to get away from you more than before even. And yeah, you just even against a single target, you get a decent amount of extra scaling, so that's gonna hurt. So Thor's overall getting a lot of buffs. It's gonna hurt a lot more. I don't like it because I don't like Thor. SLOTH Hieroglyphic Assault ability tweaks. Every time enemy guard is hit by this ability, the ability's cooldown is reduced upon finishing by 1 second, meaning that up to 3 times per charge of the ability or per usage of the ability. This can only proc once per ability fire, cannot proc from multiple guards in hits in the same projectile. So if you, if you hit multiple guards, it's still only one reduction, but if you hit multiple shots on one guard, it is multiple reductions. Reduced damage per shot from 45 to 125 plus 25 of your magical power to 40 to 120 plus 20% of your magical power. But hitting an enemy with this ability increases the damage they take from each subsequent shot by 20%. So overall, you're still going to see a damage increase, and a pretty heavy one at that if you manage to get the cooldown reduction off as well. You can pretty much, well, not spam it, but use it a lot more. Raven. 10 Enchanted Fist, decreased cooldown from 18 seconds to 16 seconds. Yeah, you're not going to notice too much of that, to be honest. I think that's something you really don't feel that much. Zeus. Added text to show duration of charges. Detonate charge. This is actually very interesting. New component. After this ability is used, there's now a delay of 0.3 seconds before the enemy is hit with damage. And this is visible for the enemy, so they get a lightning bolt above them very briefly and a circle that closes very quickly. Again, 0.3 seconds, and not a long time. And after that, the charge will pop off. But that means you can time your Aegis properly. If you see the initial bolt, you just pop your Aegis right away and you will get that shield. You just gotta be quick. So, interesting. We'll see what that does for Zeus. A lot of changes here, especially with the new items. A lot of interesting things that are going on. Overall, I think I'm very happy with most of what has been done in this patch. I think most changes are very interesting. We're seeing some guards that haven't seen so much attention lately get back into the focus a little bit in good ways, and I like that. Like, you know, guards like Nemesis, guards like Nike, yeah, should just feel better. And some guards will also come back through the item changes, especially looking at that double ability, like double Scylla Crush. Ooh, realize that. So yeah, we'll see about that. Then, at the same time, I'm very unhappy about the jungle changes, but I've said it often enough. Like, I don't know why they nerfed it more. Buff jungle, don't nerf Talaria. Buff jungle, and that's all no problem. But whatever. With that, thank you guys very much for watching. I'm going to bed now. Very late. Hope to see you all for the next one tomorrow. If you're new to the channel, feel free to sub on and maybe the bell. Out. DukeSloth. Out.